Hi everyone, I'm Dale Smith, aka Journo Dale, and we're here to talk about Canadian politics. All right, I'm here with Patricia Treble, royal commentator and writer extraordinaire in Canada. And because this is a big week in terms of the Canadian monarchy, I thought we should have a chat about what this looks like for the King of Canada as it is now. And what observations she's made in the first few days that Charles III has been king. So, Patricia, I guess why don't we start there? What is it we're seeing, at least for Canada, what this means?
What we're seeing is history. I mean, look, 90% of Canadians have known no other monarch but Queen Elizabeth II. So, I mean, we really are seeing history. And back then, so much of it was not televised. So much of it you'd only see, in one photograph in a paper. And now it's being televised live. I mean, the Accession Council, everything, it's all being live streamed. Technology is a good thing for this. What we're also seeing is that there's a very noticeable effort. If you hear the king when he gives his speeches, he's talking about Britain and his realms. So it's not just, oh, and my other possessions everywhere else. He's very specifically talking about the realms. I mean, there's 15 in total, including Britain, including Canada. And we are playing a part. And what is interesting is that we are going to play a bigger part, and we're going to have to be honest, it's one of those times when being a realm comes in handy. We're going to have better seats and more seats in Westminster Abbey for the funeral.
Okay. Well, that's always nice to know that, we got pride of place there.
Yep.
I know the Queen was very affectionate about Canada and considered it a second home. Charles has tried to make it here every other year for as long as I can remember. What do you think that says about the relationship that we're hoping to see going forward?
Yeah, I think, will we have the Maple Leaf Monarchy? I don't know. I mean, the Queen spent so much time here. I mean, 23 tours, 22 as monarch. Charles has come pretty much every 2.5 years for the last 50 years. 50 years, when you think about that, half a century. But the tours are much shorter.
Yeah.
So the Queen's big one, 1959, was 40 some days. His tours are now averaging, depending on what it is, about 4 or 5 days. We're seeing more of them, which means they can spread out. But so we're keeping that link strong, renewed regularly. But is it as strong? I don't know. And also his plans for slim down monarchy. I mean, we've now gone from what was 15 working royals to essentially 7. The Queen's 3 cousins still do duties, but they're not coming over to Canada, and they're all in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So basically, we have 7 people, and we have only 2 under the age of 50, and that's William and Kate, and they can only go so many places.
Yeah.
So I think right now we're going to be into one of those periods where anytime we get a tour, we're going to grab at it.
I wonder if this is also a time where organizations and groups in Canada should start thinking more about royal patronage, applying for it,
Yeah.
trying to have a few more private working tours to try and bolster some of those links.
And I think that's a good idea. And we're also starting to see now, the Palace has been promoting more the foreign tours of Anne, of this the secondary stars. So Anne, and then Edward and Sophie. And we're seeing that more and more. I never used to see press releases about their tours abroad, and now we do. Sophie's here quite a lot. She's here pretty much every year, if not every second year, as is Edward. So maybe they'll get a little bit higher profile. I'm hoping, because I'm going to say the proclamation ceremony at Rideau Hall compared to the proclamation ceremony in Australia at, I think it was it not the Opera House, I think, or no, Government House. That was spectacular, whereas ours was, I'm going to say, a little mean. I mean, we all knew this was coming. It's not like we were caught that much off guard. I mean, certainly the fact that she was meeting Liz Truss 2 days before her death, that was a little unexpected, but we knew this was coming. So the fact that Australia has done so much more is quite noticeable. And Australia has already declared the day of the funeral to be a national holiday. So the question is, will Canada do that? Canada has done that for every funeral since the Statute of Westminster in 1931. So I'm going to be honest. I'm hoping for a funeral. I think hoping for a holiday. I think a lot of students are hoping for a holiday as well. Whether
Yeah.
their parents are, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. And I think, by the time this goes to wide release, that we may have that announcement, but we'll see on that. The other thing I just wanted to mention with the accession ceremony is that this is the first time Canada had its own herald to do it. We transferred heraldic authority to Canada a number of years ago, and we had this blue tabard that was made, and it's really kind of cool because it incorporates both the British symbols and some First Nations symbology. So that's one of the cool things about ways in which the Canadian monarchy is starting to more incorporate some of those Indigenous aspects as well. So that's something I just wanted to flag with that particular ceremony as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fair enough. I mean, fair enough. I thought it was moving. It was just very, very small.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I don't disagree on that aspect. I guess in terms of going forward, have you heard any inklings about what we're going to get in terms of possibly from the Mint or the Bank of Canada or any of those, Canada Post, and how long? And second part of that is, how long do we think we're going to hear before we have the coronation aspect of things and the build up to that and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, some things are just easier to switch. I mean, on the day of the Queen's death, citizenship ceremonies in Canada were switching over to swear allegiance to King Charles III. Often the judges had to announce it because, of course, people were so excited and getting ready for those ceremonies, they weren't paying attention to what was happening. So that sort of thing, switching over for Queen's Counsel to King's Counsel, the Court of King's Bench, that sort of stuff is very fast. Money has always taken a while. Because you need to have official pictures taken. Everything has to be approved. Everything has to be approved, not only in Canada, but also by Buckingham Palace. The Queen took a lot of interest, apparently, in the very first images of her in her reign, because they're so symbolic. I wonder, I mean, the Royal Canadian Mint certainly will want, I think, the currency image to switch over. If nothing else, that they will sell more. And let's be practical. That's the sort of thing that does appeal to people. And let's face it, there's two sides to everyone. I mean, people were saying, oh well, we should have what else would we have? And I'm thinking, well, there's another side to every bill and every coin. I mean, you can simply just speed up the switches of those. As for a coronation, we're hearing murmurings. Now, he definitely wants it much faster. The Queen's was 15 months. It was a bit unusual simply because Winston Churchill was prime minister. He knew his Conservative Party wanted him out. And so to forestall that, because they knew he wanted to be prime minister for the coronation, he picked the longest date he could find. So 15 months. The thinking is it's going to be probably within 6 months. They need the better weather, obviously, that comes in the spring. One does not want to do a coronation in the middle of what could be an energy crisis of winter. So I'm thinking probably the early spring, maybe April, maybe May. And then that would lead up to all the big events in the summer. So Trooping the Color, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be a lot faster because, to be honest, the technology is better. Westminster Abbey is already equipped with sound and light. They simply have to augment. Putting in modular stands for everyone, that is really fast compared to the old days when you had to build it out of wood. So I think it's gonna be fast, but at the same time, the planning and the preparation for that. I mean, Canadian troops went over for the one in 1953. The RCMP went over with their horses. Is that going to happen? They took over all the parks, and the parks were simply converted into military barracks, for want of a better expression. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think it's going to be pretty spectacular. We're in for an interesting time because these are having to dust off old books. We're having to dust off old things. I just looked at the order of service for the old coronations. I've got them going back to Edward the Seventh, and it's a fascinating snapshot of what happens and what rituals will change and what rituals won't.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I have to wonder if some of the religious aspects will be
Mm-hmm.
downplayed in the more modern versions than they would have been
Yes, I
Elizabeth and
mean,
Robert.
there was talk that Charles wanted to be the king of faith, but I noticed that at the accession council, there came, he's defender of the faith, which is the Church of England.
Yeah,
And of course, for everyone in Canada, that does not mean the Anglican Church. This is very specific only to Britain.
and
That
not
he
the
is the
King of
defender of the
Canada,
faith.
which is another one of these things
Nope.
that there's a lot of confusion around right now,
Yep.
particularly around some of the residential school stuff.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
he is. He is not defender of the faith of the Anglican Church of Canada. Is completely separate within the whole worldwide Anglican Communion, and so there is this separation. I think what is actually quite helpful. I think what the next few months are really going to show is I think we're going to get a civics lesson. And I think that is actually a very good thing. I think you and I should do like an FAQ, and do some videos,
absolutely.
because there's going to be a lot talking about. I mean, there's some of the stuff is so quintessentially British, like the Lord Great Chamberlain, which is one of the great officers of state. He's the person in the red and gold outfit with the white stick who always walks in front of the monarch in Parliament and a lot of state occasions. So that actually rotates through a series of three families. They have shares in the office. So for 70 years, it was the Cholmondeley family, the Marquis of Cholmondeley, because they have a 50% share. It is now switched over. It is Lord Carrington. And if that sounds familiar, it's because his father was Margaret Thatcher's foreign minister. And so they
Okay,
have I think a 12% share, but it's their turn and they get it.
interesting. All
Yeah.
right. So yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do some civics lessons
Yeah.
on that one.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's probably all we can really cover for
Mhm.
today. But thank you so much for taking the time, and we will do
You're more
more
than
of
welcome.
this before too long.
Well, and I hope that everyone's going to get up. The funeral's going to start at 6 o'clock Eastern time on Monday, but the events will probably start about an hour earlier, and it's going to be a state funeral. Haven't had one since Winston Churchill. Haven't had a royal one since 1952. It is going to be something to watch. To get up, get your coffee, get your tea, sit by the TV and watch it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks so much, Patricia.
You're more than welcome, Dale.
That's everything for this week. Join us again next week for some more Canadian politics. I'm Dale Smith. That's at journo_Dale on Twitter. And don't forget to like the video, share, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. Thanks, everyone.